work on Leave It. And the easiest way to start teaching Leave It is with a treat in your hand. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend like my hand goes on a table. And I'm going to open it. And when my dog goes after it, I'm going to close it. And if you notice, I didn't go like this. I just closed my hand. And what we're going to teach them is if they sit back and relax, I'm going to pull the treat out of my hand and give it to them. If they don't, I'm just going to close my fist and wait for them to sit back. So here I'm going to demonstrate with Justice. And I'm not going to say leave it right now. I want him to get the game before I add the word leave it in. If you're saying leave it a whole bunch and they're not leaving it, then it means whatever they're doing. So we want to make sure we don't add the word until they're ready. So I have a treat in my hand. I'm going to put it in front of his face. And when he goes after it, I'm going to close my hand, paw or nose. And he's being good, so I'm going to open it. Good. And then I'm going to give him the treat out of the other hand. Some people give that treat. Some people would rather give a different treat. If you give a treat out of another hand, a lot of times make that treat more high value. They're leaving the low value treat and they're getting the high value treat. That way it makes it worth their while. Again, when we're working with dogs, we want to make them think it's their idea and make them think it's worth their while. Come here. Okay, sit. Come around this way. Sit. Okay. So I'm going to put a treat in my hand again. He went after it, so I'm going to close my hand, and I'm going to ignore everything. Open it back up. And there he goes. He can have the treat, and you can pick it out with the other hand, or you can give him something else. I make leave it mean look away from what you're looking at. I have a house full of terriers. All of my chihuahuas are mixed with something terrier, and then of course he's a terrier. So they have very high prey drives usually. And so when I do leave it with my dogs, I crank it down to they have to look away from what they're looking at. That way if they're chasing a squirrel and I say leave it, and it's so good in their brain, they look away from the squirrel, now their prey drive is broke and they can come back to us. I've done it that way with my sporting dogs. I've had aggressive dogs that have been able to be in sports. And when I say leave it, she would look away. The one that I'm thinking of would look away, and then that would break her prey drive and she would come back to me because I had made the recalls fun as well. So let's do this one more time, and I'm going to add the word this time because he's paying attention. So now let me add the word. Leave it. And then I clicked my clicker when he looked away from my hand. So you can either do it just that they sit back and you don't care that they're still staring. I require a look away. Leave it means look away. You do it as tight as you want it to go. I'm going to do it one more time for you. Leave it. And so he looked at me, and there's your treat. Good boy. Now, after you've got them good at that, and that may be one training session, and then you might be able to do this in the next training session, so don't push this really hard if you can't. Because especially with the baby puppies, you might have to still be holding their collar and doing it. And then as they get better, oh, you're drooling. As they get better, you won't have to hold their collar. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a treat, and I'm going to tell him to leave it. And I'm going to go down to the floor a little bit. I'm going to click and give it to him because he didn't run after it. That was good behavior. So you can click your look away, or you can click not rushing after it. So I'm going to put the treat. I'm going to say, you're drooling. Leave it. And give it back. So for a baby puppy, it may look like this. I'm going to hold the collar, say leave it, yes, and you get it right back. You only want like a millisecond because they can't handle more than a millisecond. You have to do a high rate of reinforcement for super high drive dogs or dogs that don't have much of an attention span yet. So Justice can do it really well. Your end game is leave it. Can you set the treat on the floor? And so I didn't say anything to him, I just grabbed it and stood back up. I almost said But I want him to get that I'm going to release him. I'm going to give him his treat back. Now I'm not going to release him to get the treat. I'm always going to bring the treat back to him. Leave it. Yes. And because he left it, I picked it up. Now, I set him up for success because the last time he tried to go after it, this time I only did it for 1 second. Then I'll do it for 2 seconds, and then I'll start to raise my criteria. You don't want to go straight to making him sit there for 10 seconds because that's really hard. So here's one more demonstration. Leave it. click and treat. So the timing of your clicker is when the exercise is over. He did it, he got a click, and now he gets his treat. For some of you, one of the hot spots, you'll get all the way to here and your dog will leave it. But what happens when it touches the floor? Your dog's gonna jump up. So what I want you to do is keep your hand there and then give it to him. And then eventually you'll be able to do what I did and stand up. Make sure that you're not adding your leave it word too soon. Make sure they get the hand game, let them read the body language with your hand, and then start adding the word. It will make it a stronger behavior in the end.